I have a blessings and welcome to this video. Today we will be talking about Mercury retrograde, and the day I am publishing this video is October the 13th, which is the start of the Mercury retrograde. And some parts of the world it's very, very early in the morning, October 14th, but it started. So I would like to give you just a few tips and guide you a little bit on what is going on in the cosmic dance and what this means to us and how we can use this energy to understand um, the light and the shadow of what is being presented. So every time Mercury goes retrograde, we can feel the energy. Actually, the going when it went retrograde, I could just really just feel the energy coming through very, very strongly. And although there is a pre-phase of Mercury retrograde where we start to feel intense energies. So let me talk about what a retrograde is, and we're going to talk about Mercury retrograde in Scorpio and how this is going to affect us. So Mercury goes retrograde throughout the year between 3 and 4 times, and the retrograde lasts for 21 days. But there is a pre-phase and then an integration phase when we finish. So retrograde means that it's as if the energy of the planet went to the opposite direction, meaning that we are going inward with that energy. It seems like Mercury is going backwards, but the energy has stopped. So what that means is that we are called to go inward and understand the teachings of the planet and what we need to look at within the sign that the planet is going retrograde in. And so Mercury is all about communication, not just how we communicate with everyone, but how we communicate with the world, with ourselves, with relationship, any type of relationship, how we communicate with money, with food, with sexuality. All of that is Mercury retrograde. Mercury also rules technology and the spoken word, really the spoken word. And remember that Mercury is Hermes, which is the messenger of the gods. So all of these little signs and messages that we get throughout the day, like if we hear a song 2 times, or all of a sudden we see the name of a street and it's the name of a friend, or we see these little things. This is Mercury retrograde. The god Hermes trying to send us messages, because light beings and different energies don't communicate exactly with words all the time, because some do. So in that sense, when we have a Mercury retrograde, we may tend to see technology is a bit weird. Our communication is strange. Maybe we sign a contract and then everything goes crazy. We need to be very, very careful with anything that has to do with communication. Why? It's not something bad. Mercury retrograde is not bad. The reason why we need to be careful is not because things happen when Mercury is retrograde. The reason is because all of these different energies and planets and intuition and spirit guides are trying to give us a message. They're trying to tell us something. And if we don't listen, especially during a Mercury retrograde, something will happen. Maybe the phone will stop working. Maybe our computer will go down, and you have a meeting and you can't make it to your meeting. Why? Because there's something in this Mercury retrograde that you need to look at and you're not focusing. So that's why we tend to have situations with communication happen during a Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury retrograde goes into the Scorpio sign. We know that Scorpio is all about death and rebirth. Scorpio is all about mystery. Scorpio is all about going within to really do the deep work. I see it's the dark, she's the dark goddess, Scorpio. And in the light, Scorpio is power, pure power, like going within and awakening your power and your potential. But in the shadow, it's manipulation, a lot of manipulation. So this Mercury retrograde is very important for us, and we've been going Mercury has been going retrograde in water signs for 2 years, and last year it was the same. But then in 221 it won't, and then in 222 it will again. But why is this Mercury retrograde so important? in Scorpio, because we know that Scorpio is a very intense sign. And when we work with Scorpio, it's all about death, transformation, rebirth. So there is a call for us to really, really, really go inward and understand what is dying within us. And also to listen to what needs to be listened to understand our shadows, to understand the fears that we have and all of the fears that we're going through right now as a collective humanity. This is a moment where we are, all of us, going through this second wave of the COVID-19, and the pandemic is so strong. And even though that we're waiting to go into this new earth, we already are here. We're just trying to understand how to clean up the mess of the old structure so that we can beautifully go into the new. Um, so we are looking forward to this, but there are fears that could come up within all of us, and that's actually okay. Um, to understand a fear coming up and looking at this fear means that we're taking the power away from that fear. Because when we don't look at fears and we don't understand them, that fear has power to govern our lives. And that's very Scorpio. Okay. Oh, you don't, very Pluto. You don't want to look at your fear. Fine, I'm going to take over. And that's very karmic. And then we start to attract crazy situations into our life. So this Mercury retrograde is also very powerful because it does start in Scorpio on October the 13th. It finishes on November 3rd in an air sign, Libra, and then we go into the integration phase. Now, on November 3rd is election day in the United States. And this is very, very important because election day will be in the Mercury retrograde energy. Okay? It will happen. And it's going to be in that energy right on November the 3rd, and also in the integration phase, which is very, very powerful shadow energy. And why is this so important? There may be problems with communication, with voting counts. A lot of things could go wrong. But at the same time, the person who is elected in the United States is the person who's going to lead the country in the first Pluto return of the US in 2022. And the Pluto return is about death and transformation. And this is very important for all of the world. And I'm not going to go into this, but we know that the dollar is actually the coin, the currency that holds all of the currencies in the world. And in a way, the US is a vortex, a very powerful vortex. It is Cancer as a sign, the mother, and the energies of freedom, which correspond to the pre-Aquarian age, were born there. You know, the freedom, everyone is free, the right to be who you are, the hippie movement, all of that started there. So there is something very powerful that is going to trickle into the rest of the world. So we need to pray for this moment, and we need to all be very, very cleansed, because what happens in one country happens in all countries. Really, this is the Aquarian age, but understanding the vortex energetically that this country holds is very important as well. And so let me give you some guidelines, because I don't want you to be scared of Mercury retrograde, because every time I hear people say, oh no, Mercury retrograde, how horrible. I take this as an opportunity, and things go slower. And this Mercury retrograde is in opposition with Uranus and Taurus. And Mercury and Uranus are also like polarity planets, we could call them like that. And this Mercury retrograde starts at 11 degrees, and 11 degrees is a master number. 11 degrees is the teacher on earth, and it's also the one and the one that brings down something new through that birth canal, that space between the two pillars. And the number 11 is also the high priestess, who sits between the two pillars in neutrality, trying to understand both sides and bringing both sides into unity. So if we take this number 11 and apply the number 11 to ourselves, we can understand that in this Mercury retrograde, we need to go within and first listen to the little voices that come up through this in this retrograde. Maybe when we hear ourselves saying, oh, I don't want to do this, or I want to do this, or I'm sad, or I'm happy, or well, I want to change my life, or I'm thinking about this person, because we do tend to get people from the past come up during a Mercury retrograde. Listen to that voice and stop and maybe write it down. Take your notebook. I always get a new notebook for Mercury retrogrades, and take that notebook with you and write this down. And then when you have a moment in the evening or before you go to bed, try to understand what that means. Because remember, Mercury represents how we communicate with everything. And I think the most fundamental relationship is, how am I communicating with myself? Am I listening to myself? Am I listening to my intuition? Am I listening to my inner voice? Am I listening to my feelings? Is my body actually being a barometer of what is going on? So that all of that is Mercury retrograde. So when we get these feelings, these energies, these voices, these images, write them down and take time to digest them. Take time to understand what they're trying to say. So that is the first thing, especially in Scorpio. And then another thing that is very, very important to navigate in this Mercury retrograde is we need to focus on being calm and centered, because Scorpio awakens things that are dormant. Remember, as the governing planets are Pluto and Mars. We don't forget Mars is a governing planet as well, even though we usually forget Mars. That was the original planet that governed Scorpio. But we've got Pluto and Mars. And Mars is that warrior energy, the warrior of light, which means that we can go beyond all of our fears and all of our obstacles, or the warrior that is patriarchal and just wants to fight and control. And we've got those two energies in the light and the shadow that are affecting this Mercury. Then we've got the energy of Pluto. And Pluto is about death and transformation and power, but your power, your inner power. But of course, in the shadow, it's the power over, okay, and manipulation. So think of these two planets maybe dancing within your whole energetic, intuitive system, and try to understand how they are playing. Where is my warrior of light, and where is my destructive warrior? And where am I empowering myself within and not empowering myself over? And when we empower, when there is power over, that means that there is fear. So this is a time just to stop and to pay attention to what is going on within us. And of course, please be cautious in any Mercury retrograde when you sign a contract, and when you want to buy something like buying a house or any type of deal, or when you want to start something new. Be cautious, because when Mercury is retrograde, the energy is very strong, especially now it's opposite Uranus, and Uranus just wants a lot of movement. Be cautious of how we are feeling and why we are doing things. So I hope that this video helped you a little bit just to understand what Mercury retrograde is and the power that it holds for us when we know how to use these energies. They are here to guide us. Just remember that we live on a polarity planet. And if we're not centered, we're not present, we're not going inwards or taking a little bit of time to go inwards, we are actually being possessed by the polarity of the light, which is darkness. And also remember that we begin this beautiful Mercury retrograde on October the 13th, and the 13th is the number of the divine feminine. And remember that when we add the 1 and the 3, it's a 4, and it's the grounding of the energies of the divine feminine that you are here to bring into this world. If you're a male or a female, you are bringing these energies into the world. So thank you so much for listening to this video, and I would really love to know your reflections and any questions or how you feel about the information that I've shared with you. And just have a blessed, beautiful day, and we'll be in touch, because I'm here on YouTube sharing these astrological insights and different channelings from Mary Magdalene and the spiral of the Rosa Mystica. Many blessings. Ahava.